What's up, trainers? You got Pokémon Master TC, and in today's video, I'm gonna be discussing and ranking the saddest moments of the first season in the Pokemon anime. And there are some tearjerkers in this season. A lot of them I watched as a kid, and some of them weren't as emotional as they are today because as I've gotten older, I've kind of gone through some things. I've had my own experiences, and sometimes these ones really get to me. And these examples I'm gonna be giving, they're not always very obviously sad moments in the anime. Some of them might be a little bit hidden, but I'll explain my reasons for why they are so sad. Now, if you're a first-time viewer, or if you just haven't yet, make sure you hit that sub button because I've got tons of Pokemon content on my channel, a lot of retro Pokemon stuff, discussions about Pokemon from the 90s and all the good stuff that comes with the franchise. And so hit that sub button if you haven't yet. All right, let's jump into the top 10 saddest moments of the Pokemon anime in the first season.
Pokemon changed my life. It became my first addiction. The TV show, games, cards, and toys. I was enamored by it all. Becoming a Pokemon Master was all that I cared about as a kid. And so, I became one. Join me, Pokemon Master TC, as I relive the most nostalgic part of my childhood and showcase my Pokemon collection. And most important of all, share my love of Pokemon with you.
All right, trainers, I hope you brought a box of tissues because it's about to get sad. Now, I'm gonna go in chronological order of these events happening, and they're all sad for various reasons, and I'll get into each of them. But let's get into the very first episode because I do think this is a sad moment. I didn't like seeing it as a kid, and as an adult, it really makes me sad. And so I wish he would come over here. I'm gonna call his name out. Sony. Nope, he's eating something off the ground. But as I've gotten older, I've had pets. I love animals. I love dogs and I love cats. And I've really bonded with a couple cats of mine. And Sony is one of the best things in my life. And I associate owning a pet like owning a Pokemon. And so when I see Pokemon get hurt in various ways, it really upsets me. Oh, he's coming over here. Let's see if I can pick him up at some point. But in the first episode, Ash throws the rock at the Spearow, and then Pikachu and him have to make a run for it. And Pikachu gets pretty banged up by the Spearow, and Pikachu does this cry, and it's just, oh, I don't like that cry, and I don't like seeing Pikachu get hurt like that. And near the end of the episode, Pikachu is really beat up, and Ash has Pikachu in his arms. He's trying to get Pikachu to safety, and I picture me with my beloved pets and holding them, and just, it makes me sad to think about if my pets were so hurt and injured like that, how could I get them to safety? And so the first choice I have is the very first episode, and that's when Ash's Pikachu gets really hurt by the Spearow, and it's pretty much unconscious or in critical support. Let's next head to episode 5, where we learn a little bit more about Brock's backstory. So in this episode, Ash is trying to win his first badge, the Boulder badge at the Pewter City Gym, but in order to do so, he's got to take on Brock, and Brock is no easy challenge for Ash, especially because Pikachu is very weak against rock-type Pokemon. And so Ash figures out a way to defeat Brock, and during this, he meets this man named Flint, and Flint's a little bit mysterious. He kind of comes off as maybe a homeless guy, and it turns out to be Brock's actual father. And Flint was so embarrassed to go off and try and become a Pokemon trainer, and he failed, and he is so ashamed to show his face to his family. And so that means that Brock has to take care of all of his siblings, and there is a lot of them. I don't know how many there are. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments below. But Brock is the oldest sibling, and so he really has to set aside his dreams to take care of his family. And so it's just sad to think about a father being so close to his family, but so ashamed of how his life turned out that he can't be with his family. He doesn't want to show his face to them. And in retrospect, that really hurts Brock and his family because they need a father and there is no one there for them. And so that to me was a pretty sad moment in the first season of the Pokemon anime. Now, if you guys have seen the first season, all of you knew this episode was coming. That's episode 11, in which Ash finds an abandoned Charmander. And oh my gosh, this episode possibly is the saddest one. I hate to think about it. So Charmander is deemed too weak by his trainer Damien. And Damien, I think everybody hates. It's probably the most hated trainer in the first season of the anime. And so Damien abandons his Charmander and tells Charmander that he'll come back for it in a little bit. That never happens. And Damien is bragging about abandoning Charmander to his other friends. And Charmander is there, and there's this rainstorm that comes, and if Charmander's flame on his tail goes out, then he's gonna die. Yes, really, it's that traumatic. And you see Ash and Brock and Misty take care of Charmander, but Charmander is so stubborn, he doesn't want to leave his rock because if Damien comes back, Charmander thinks that Damien will pick him back up. And so, as a pet lover, as an animal lover, I can't fathom abandoning my pet, whether it's my cat, whether it was my dog. I can't imagine doing that to them. And the little cries that Charmander makes, wondering where Damien's at, it is heartbreaking. And so to me, that is one of the saddest moments in the entire Pokemon series, not just the first season. And so I think this is probably going to be my top choice for the saddest moment, but I think everyone can agree this is one of the saddest moments in the first season. You know, Team Rocket can ruin a lot of things. And for this next choice, we're gonna go to episode 13, and it's Mystery at the Lighthouse. And I really dug this episode as a kid. And in this episode, a giant, mysterious Pokemon has been communicating with Bill, the Pokemon researcher and someone that lives at the lighthouse. And this giant Pokemon will talk to Bill every night, and he's trying to get this mysterious Pokemon, which is a giant Dragonite, to come visit. And he actually does it when Ash, Brock, and Misty are there, but Team Rocket screws it all up. They have these bazookas, and they start firing rockets at this Dragonite, and it's really sad to see the Dragonite be so excited to have friends, potentially, to meet someone that it can bond with. And then as soon as it is vulnerable, Team Rocket is firing rockets at it and hitting it, and it gets pissed, and I don't blame it. And so Dragonite gets really upset, and he walks away, and his head's down, and he disappears. And it was just a sad moment to see a Pokemon that was so lonely not get to make friends. And Bill was obviously upset too. So Team Rocket, another example of them ruining everything in the Pokemon series. But that's a pretty sad moment to see Dragonite walk away and once again become lonely. All right, I got him. Here's my little boy, Sony. He is a Maine Coon, and he is so big, so playful, and so friendly. And I love him to death. Now, in this next choice is, I think, an obvious selection. It's Bye Bye Butterfree. So Ash says goodbye to the first Pokemon he ever caught that was a Caterpie. And that's gotta be a very mature decision. I think it was the right decision. I've done a video on what if Ash would have kept Butterfree and the ramifications of it. And so in the end, I think Ash made the right decision, but that doesn't change the fact that it's really sad that he has to release Butterfree. He releases Butterfree back into the wild so Butterfree can have a family of its own, but the ending is really, really sad. I don't know how else to put it. It's Ash saying goodbye to one of his best friends, to the first Pokemon he ever caught, and it's just a tearjerker. So Bye Bye Butterfree is gonna be on this list. Let's head to episode 39, and that's going to be Pikachu's Goodbye. Now, the first time I saw this episode, I couldn't believe what was happening. I could not believe that Ash was trying to get rid of Pikachu. And again, this is such an emotional experience for him and for the viewer, because again, if you've got pets and you're pushing them away from you and they just love you relentlessly, it's so sad to think about. And so this is a really sad moment in the anime, but thankfully Pikachu refuses to be released. And Pikachu shows its true character, its true love for Ash, and wanting to go on this Pokemon journey, wanting to become a Pokemon Master with Ash. And Pikachu thankfully refuses to be back in the wild. And so you see all these flashbacks happening, and when you're watching it, you're just kind of like, huh, who is cutting onions in this room? Because it is a little sad right now. But thankfully it's got a happy ending. But that episode was really sad when Ash was trying to release Pikachu. I did not like that. Let's go to episode 40, and I feel like a lot of people don't catch this one as a sad moment, but I remember it vividly. And it is the battling Eevee brothers. So in this episode, there's 4 brothers. 3 of them already have the evolved form of an Eevee. You've got Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon. And these 3 brothers are really putting pressure onto their youngest brother, who has an Eevee as well. And they all want his brother to choose one of their evolutions. But his brother doesn't want to change Eevee, and he's actually ashamed of Eevee. And he hides Eevee in this forest, ties Eevee up, and it's just so sad to think about a little Pokemon off in the woods with a bowl of food, a bowl of water, and being neglected. I hated seeing that. Now, thankfully, this one also has a happy ending. The younger brother realizes that he can't abandon Eevee, that it's okay to have your own personality, your own identity, and that his older brothers shouldn't influence his decision on whether or not to evolve Eevee. And in the end, he does not choose to evolve Eevee, and he shows that Eevee can be strong on its own form, and it really is a nice ending. But the moment of Eevee being abandoned in the forest, being tied up, his little cries, ugh, I don't like that at all, and that was a sad moment. Now, we all like to rip on Team Rocket of Jessie, James, and Meowth, but they all do kind of have tragic backstories. Jessie is an orphan. James was a runaway because he was getting forced into marriage. And Meowth is an alley cat, kind of a little hooligan, if you could say that. But Meowth's backstory is really sad because he falls in love with this other Meowth. I think her name was Meowthy. And he learns to talk to her because he learns English, or he learns how to talk like a human does, because he sees how much Meowthy's owner means to Meowthy and how much she loves her owner. And so Meowth thinks to himself, well, I will learn human language, and that way Meowthy will be impressed with me. Well, she doesn't. She thinks he is a freak, and she says that to him, and it breaks his heart. And so he realizes that this isn't the town for him. This is not the city for him, and he has to run away again, and he ends up joining Team Rocket. But, Meowth ruins a lot of things in the anime, but you can't help but shed a tear for him because he had his heart broken, and he was called a freak. And it really deals with some serious emotional issues of Meowth, with abandonment, with rejection, and him turning his life over to an organization of crime. And so It's a sad moment in the first season of the Pokemon anime. I've got 2 choices left. This next one is gonna go all the way to the end of the season, and I think this one's a pretty obvious one. Spoilers ahead if you guys haven't seen this episode, but Ash is competing in the Indigo League. He's going up against his friend Richie, and Ash's Charizard refuses to obey him. And it's a really sad moment because I think a lot of the audience really didn't know what was going to happen. As a kid, I just assumed Ash was going to win. And it's an important lesson that life doesn't go as planned. Things are not as predictable as we all want them to be, and the good guy or the person that we are rooting for doesn't always win. This is a harsh lesson to learn, and we see Ash's dreams of becoming a Pokemon Master shatter in this episode. He is not crowned the champion. In fact, he loses. And so it's the fact that he has to deal with disappointment, not achieving what he set out to achieve, and that's something that I think we can all relate to. I think we all have dreams, we all have hopes, and a lot of the times it doesn't work out. And so in a way, the audience can relate to Ash a little bit more because Ash doesn't get what he wants. And a lot of times we don't get what we want, but it doesn't make it any more happy because you see Ash start to cry silently. You know, he's trying to be tough, but you do see the tears go down his cheeks. He calls Charizard back into the Pokeball, and Charizard simply just has no remorse. He just does not care. And it's a sad moment. I really felt bad for Ash not being able to train Charizard enough for Charizard to respect him. And it was a tough lesson to learn, and that was a tough episode to watch. All right, trainers, this is the final choice that I have for the top saddest moments in the first season of the Pokemon series. This one is kind of a hidden episode. It's not a numerical one, it was a special episode one, and that is Snow Way Out. And in this episode, Ash, Misty, and Brock take a wrong turn. They end up in a snowy mountain, and this blizzard happens, and Pikachu gets swept up in a blizzard and gets kind of blown away off the mountainside, and Ash goes after Pikachu kind of recklessly, but I understand it. It's his best friend, it's his little pet. And so Ash jumps off the mountain, he snatches up Pikachu, and he eventually finds Pikachu, but he realizes that they are in some serious danger and that they are going to freeze to death if they don't do anything. And so Ash has Charmander come out of the Pokeball. Charmander uses his flamethrower and is able to form kind of a snow cave. And in this snow cave is one of the best moments of the first season, but it's also one of the most emotional and sad moments. Ash and his Pokemon all work together to survive. And so Bulbasaur's out there, Charmander's out there, Pidgeotto, Pikachu, I think I've named them all, maybe Squirtle if I forgot that one. And they're all trying to stay warm together. And Ash is holding them all, and he realizes they're gonna freeze to death if he doesn't do anything about it. And so he tries to recall them in their Pokeballs, and they don't wanna be recalled. They wanna stay out there with Ash, which is emotional to begin with, but they finally do get called back, and he tries to get Pikachu to go into Pikachu's Pokeball, and we all know Pikachu hates that. And Pikachu refuses. Pikachu goes, no, I'm not gonna go in there. I'm gonna freeze to death with you. And he ends up holding Pikachu in his arms and keeping each other warm throughout this terrible blizzard, throughout this freezing snowstorm. And together, it's kind of a sad moment. I'd say it's more emotional than it is sad because it shows how powerful bond Ash has with Pikachu and his other Pokemon that he just wants to take care of them so badly. And so for me, again, as a pet owner, I think about having all the pets that I've had in my life in my arms, being together and just kind of going through life's journey. And Ash was going through a very difficult time in that episode, and his Pokemon, his partners, got him through it. They got each other through it. And I kind of picture that now as an adult with my animals. And it's, like I said, more emotional than sad, but to me, it's still a sad moment. And so that's gonna be on this list for the top 10 saddest moments in the first season of Pokemon. Now, trainers, you heard my thoughts and my selections for the saddest moments in the first season, but I would love to hear from you guys. What did I miss? Are there any episodes or moments that really got to you guys when you watched the first season of Pokemon? Let me know in the comments below, and if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that sub button, and why don't you leave me a comment on one of my choices of my picks for the saddest moments. And you know, I love showing off my Pokemon collection, and if you like that type of stuff too, I just showed off my awesome Pokemon poster in my latest video, so go check that out after this. All right, trainers, I wish you the best in becoming a Pokemon master and catching them all. Thanks for watching.